Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on a topic I think we can all relate to. Anxiety.
Yeah, who hasn't felt that?
Exactly. Heart racing, thoughts spiraling out of control, that kind of thing. And you, our awesome listeners, have sent in some super interesting stuff on grounding techniques.
Right. Really fascinating.
So we're diving into those today, figuring out how they can help us, manage those anxious moments and regain control. It's like having a toolkit for your nervous system.
It is, actually. And what's cool is that grounding isn't just some, woo-woo relaxation trick.
Oh, really? I thought it was kind of like that.
Nope. The cool thing is it's actually rooted in science. How our brains and bodies actually react to stress.
Oh, interesting. So we're talking like the nitty-gritty of how anxiety works.
Exactly. And then how grounding techniques kind of step in and interrupt that whole process.
Gotcha. Okay, so before we get to the techniques themselves, can we break down what happens when anxiety hits? Like for me, my heart starts pounding, thoughts race, and I can't focus on anything else.
Oh, yeah. That's classic fight or flight response. Our body's gearing up to protect us from danger.
Right, like our ancestors running from saber-toothed tigers.
Exactly. Problem is, nowadays, our tigers are more like deadlines and social situations.
Uh-huh, yeah. Or like that huge pile of laundry I've been ignoring.
Totally. And we can't exactly run from those things or fight them physically, so we end up stuck in this loop of anxiety.
Ugh, yeah. That sounds familiar. I know one of the sources we got called it the anxiety cycle, and it's kind of fascinating how it just keeps building on itself.
Oh, it totally does. So, imagine you've got a trigger, right? Maybe a presentation you have to give.
Oh, I hate presentations. Big time anxiety trigger for me.
Right. So immediately your thoughts start racing. What if I mess up? What if everyone judges me? That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. All those worst case scenarios start popping up.
And that's what we call catastrophic thinking. And that, my friend, triggers a flood of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol.
Oh, no. The dreaded stress hormones. I know those are trouble.
Right. And they cause all those physical symptoms. The racing heart, sweating, tense muscles.
It's like a physical manifestation of all that mental worry.
It is. And here's the kicker. Those physical sensations then feed back into the cycle, making you even more anxious. It's like, why am I feeling like this? Something must be seriously wrong.
Oh, man. So it's like a vicious circle.
Totally. It just spirals, gaining momentum, hard to break free.
So grounding techniques.
Yeah.
This is where they come in, right? Like to break that cycle.
Exactly. They're like circuit breakers for that anxiety cycle.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. They basically shift your attention to the present moment, to what you can actually sense and experience.
Okay, yeah, I get that. So instead of those racing thoughts, you're focusing on something tangible.
Exactly. One source described it as reconnecting with the present moment, and I think that really captures it,
Yeah, it's like hitting pause on all that mental noise.
Exactly. Like a reset button for your nervous system.
I love that. So you mentioned earlier that grounding is backed by science. What's actually going on in our brains when we use these techniques?
Okay, so this is where it gets super interesting. Research shows that grounding techniques activate the prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex. That's like the thinking part of our brain, right?
It is. It's the part responsible for rational thought, decision-making, emotional regulation, all that good stuff.
Okay, so it's like we're bringing in the adult part of our brain to calm things down.
Exactly. And by doing that, we can basically talk down the amygdala.
The amygdala. Isn't that the part that freaks out?
Yes. It's like the brain's alarm system triggering that fear response.
Gotcha. So by focusing on the present moment, we're actually shifting brain activity, helping to regulate those out-of-control feelings.
Exactly. And there are all sorts of techniques to do this. Some engage your senses, some use movement, things like that. Actually, you mentioned one in your notes, the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory awareness method.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. I've tried it myself. It's amazing how quickly it can shift your focus. It's like a mini meditation, on the go.
It totally is. Simple, but so powerful. You basically find 5 things you can see around you.
Oh, anything, right? Like a picture on the wall or a cloud in the sky.
Exactly. Then you find 4 things you can touch. The feel of your clothes, the texture of a chair, anything like that.
It's funny, you don't realize how much we just tune out those everyday sensations.
We do. And then it's 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
Wow, a full-on sensory experience.
It is. Helps ground you firmly in the present moment.
And the best part is you can do it anytime, anywhere. Like stuck in a stressful meeting, quick sensory scan, feeling anxious in traffic. Focus on what you see, hear, and feel in your car.
It's a great tool to have in your back pocket.
So I get that it shifts your attention, but what's the science behind why it works so well?
Okay, so when we're worrying, our thoughts tend to be really abstract, not connected to the present. But by engaging all five senses, we're bringing in concrete, real information. And that kind of forces our brain to shift gears.
Interesting. It's like we're giving our brain something else to focus on, something tangible.
Exactly. It disrupts those negative thought loops and helps us regain a sense of control.
Love it.
Hmm.
Okay, so sensory engagement is one way to ground yourself.
Yeah.
What about the physical stuff? I know the sources mention some physical grounding exercises too. I've always been curious about those.
Oh, yeah, they can be super helpful, especially if you're feeling really keyed up.
It seems counterintuitive though, right?
Yeah.
Like focusing on your body to help with mental anxiety.
I know. But remember, it's all about interrupting those mental loops, and engaging different parts of your brain and body can do that. Have you ever heard of progressive muscle relaxation?
I have, but honestly, I've never tried it.
You should. It's surprisingly effective. You basically tense and release different muscle groups throughout your body.
So like clenching your fists and then letting go.
Exactly. You start with your hands, maybe clench your fists tight for a few seconds, and then slowly release. Pay attention to how that feels.
Interesting. So you just go through each part of your body like that.
Yep. Forearms, biceps, shoulders, you name it. As you tense and release, you really focus on those sensations.
Okay, so how does that actually reduce anxiety?
Well, for one, tensing your muscles kind of mimics your body's stress response, but you're doing it in a controlled way.
Ah, so it's like you're processing that tension in a safe space.
Right. And by focusing on those sensations, you're pulling your mind away from those anxious thoughts.
Makes sense. It's like redirecting your energy.
Exactly. The sources also mention simpler stuff like stretching, walking, even just tapping your feet.
Oh yeah, those little movements can make a difference. Sometimes I just need to get up and move around when I'm feeling anxious.
It helps. It gets your body involved, releases some endorphins, makes you feel more grounded.
I'm loving all this. It's so cool to see how many different approaches there are. It's like we have a whole menu of options.
We do. And we've only just started. We haven't even touched on breathing techniques or the amazing power of nature.
Wait, there's more. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to explore. And I think you'll especially love the nature-based stuff. It's really fascinating.
I can't wait. Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll dive into those techniques next. All right, so nature-based grounding. I'm really intrigued by this. I mean, being in nature always feels good, but I didn't realize there was like actual science behind it.
Oh, there's tons of research. It shows that spending time in nature can, reduce stress, lower blood pressure, even boost your mood.
Really? Wow. It's like our brains and bodies are just wired to connect with nature, huh?
Yeah, I think so. It makes sense, evolutionarily speaking. I mean, we spent most of our history surrounded by nature.
True. So it's like going back to our roots almost.
Mhm. Exactly. And one of the most interesting things about nature-based grounding is this concept of earthing. Have you heard of that?
I have. Isn't that basically just walking barefoot on the earth?
Yep, that's it. And it might seem simple, but research suggests it can have a big impact on our bodies. You see, the Earth's surface has this natural negative charge.
Okay.
And when we make direct contact with it, barefoot, our bodies can actually absorb those electrons.
Wow. So it's like we're literally plugging into the Earth's energy.
Kind of. Studies show that earthing can reduce inflammation, improve sleep, even help regulate our circadian rhythms.
That's amazing. I got to try that. I love the idea of ditching my shoes and getting grounded, literally.
It's a great way to reconnect. And if you're looking for something even more immersive, there's forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. It sounds so peaceful. But what exactly is it? Just like taking a walk in the woods?
It's more than that. It's about really immersing yourself in the forest, using all your senses. You might stop to listen to the birds, touch the bark of a tree, breathe in the fresh air.
So it's like a mindful walk in nature.
Exactly. And the benefits go way beyond relaxation. Studies have shown that forest bathing can lower cortisol levels, boost your immune system, even increase creativity.
Wow, that's incredible. I remember one of the sources mentioned that forests release these chemicals called phytoncides, and those actually have antibacterial and antifungal properties.
It's true. Being in nature can actually boost our immune systems. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that we're part of this bigger ecosystem and our well-being is connected to it. Speaking of connection, one of the sources had this beautiful quote from Anne Frank about nature. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. "The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside. somewhere where they can be quiet, alone with the heavens, nature, and God. Because only then does one feel that all is as it should be, and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest things are the most profound.
I agree. I'm definitely feeling inspired to spend more time outdoors, even if it's just a few minutes in my backyard.
Right. Every little bit helps. And if you're really wanting to get creative with this, you could even make your own grounding kit.
A grounding kit, what's that?
It's basically a collection of objects that you find soothing and grounding, things with different textures, shapes, scents, like a portable toolkit for calm.
Oh, that's a cool idea. So, like, what kind of things would you put in it?
It's really up to you, whatever resonates with your senses. Some people like smooth stones, soft fabrics, essential oils. Others might choose fidget toys, crystals, photos of loved ones, or places that bring them peace.
I love that. It's like a little treasure chest of calm.
Exactly. And even the process of creating the kit can be therapeutic, It makes you think about what brings you comfort.
So we've talked about sensory grounding, physical grounding, and now nature-based grounding. Are there any other types of grounding techniques?
Oh, yeah, there are so many. Two that often get overlooked are body scan meditation and progressive muscle relaxation.
I'm familiar with body scan meditation. That's where you mentally scan your body and notice any sensations you're feeling, right?
Exactly. It's a really powerful way to connect with your physical self and release tension.
And progressive muscle relaxation, we talked about that earlier as a physical grounding technique. But you mentioned it's also considered a mindfulness practice.
It is, because you're bringing this mindful awareness to the process of tensing and releasing those muscles.
So it's like a double dose of relaxation.
Exactly. And that combination can be incredibly effective for reducing anxiety.
It's amazing how interconnected our minds and bodies are. When you address tension in one, it seems to help the other.
Absolutely. And grounding is all about finding that balance between our inner and outer worlds.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to work with now.
And we're not done yet. There's still so much more to explore in the world of grounding.
I can't wait to learn more. This is fascinating. It's amazing, right? All these different ways to practice grounding. I mean, we've covered so much already, but it feels like there's still a whole world out there to explore.
Oh, totally. And it's a field that's constantly evolving, too. As we learn more about that mind-body connection and anxiety and stress, new approaches are popping up all the time.
One thing that really stuck with me was the idea of grounding, not just as a reaction, when you're already feeling overwhelmed, but as a preventative thing.
Oh, I love that. Building that foundation.
Right. Like making mindfulness and that connection to yourself and the world a priority, so you're better equipped to handle whatever comes your way.
Exactly. It's not about erasing stress completely. That's not realistic. It's about having those tools, those practices to navigate it all with a bit more ease.
It's like building up your mental immune system, right? Just like we take care of our physical health.
Love that analogy. And just like with physical health, a holistic approach is key. That's what makes grounding so powerful. It gives you that whole toolkit, to personalize it for what you need.
The sources also talked a lot about finding joy and meaning in your life, and how that can be a powerful antidote to anxiety, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when you're engaged in things that light you up, your focus naturally shifts away from worry. Your energy is flowing in a positive direction.
It makes total sense. You're less likely to get caught up in those anxious thought patterns when you're feeling fulfilled and passionate.
Exactly. It's about those things that remind you what truly matters, whether it's spending time with people you love, being creative, enjoying nature, or just savoring those little moments of joy.
And it's important to remember that everyone's experience with anxiety is different. What works for one person might not work for another.
That's so true. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's about honoring your own journey and finding those tools that really resonate with you.
Yeah, and being kind to yourself along the way. It's a process, right?
Totally. Be curious, experiment, listen to your body and mind. Keep refining that toolkit as you go. And sometimes that might mean reaching out for professional help, too.
That's a good point. There's no shame in that. It can be so helpful to have that guidance and support.
Absolutely. You don't have to go through this alone. There are people who care, resources available, Reaching out can make all the difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on grounding techniques, I really hope you're walking away feeling empowered. Anxiety might be part of your life, but it doesn't have to control you. You have the power to choose calm, to build resilience, to create a life that feels good.
And remember, grounding is a practice. It's not about being perfect. It's about those small, consistent steps you take to nurture yourself, to make those techniques a part of your everyday life, so they're there when you need them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. We hope you've learned some valuable things today.
And keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts and experiences with us on social media. Let's keep learning and growing together.
Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember the power of grounding. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.